And so it's really, really important for families to also understand in the first instance what the law says. The law only recognizes a valid will
100%.
in order for this letter or the wishes of this individual to take place. In his will, the mother did not say, this is where you're going to find the money to pay off the debts.
Yes.
In fact, let's talk about all the debts, not just the house debt. So important. Manage your debt properly so that you don't leave your kids with debt.
Hello, family. Thank you so much, really, for joining us at A Space to Breathe. Welcome to our episode number 3. We have a beautiful guest, Mamulao, today that's joining us. Good afternoon.
Hello, how are you, Noni?
I'm good, thanks. And how are you, Mamulao?
Good, good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, lovely. And, I'll come back to the fact that today you're sitting on the other side. But just back to our viewers, I just want to remind you, viewers today, to say please subscribe to A Space to Breathe, like, share, comment. Remember, any questions are welcome. This will help us to really form more YouTube conversations around the questions that you have, around any comments that you put up there, so that we can be able to engage further. Remember, it's a space to breathe for us to actually support each other. We are here to rediscover ourselves as widows, to build our journey. We are here to support each other. So let's use this space. It's our platform. Let's have the conversation. Mamulao, how does it feel to be sitting on the other side today?
It feels weird sitting on the other side, but I'm very excited to be able to impart knowledge to, the people and especially to widows.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much, really, for making the time. I really, really appreciate it.
Most welcome.
But before we may start, I know you as Mamulao, and we know the actual name, but I want to give you the platform to actually introduce yourself. Who is Mamulao, and what does Mamulao do?
Mamulao is my YouTube platform. I started a YouTube platform last year sometime where the intention is to give access to legal education, all the questions that people have always had around everyday things. Our everyday lives have a legal aspect to it.
Yes.
And so it was important for me as an attorney to actually impart some of that knowledge on a platform where they are not going to be, intimidated by sitting in front of an attorney. They have to pay a certain sum and so forth. Information is really key. Educating oneself is really key. And that's why we came up with the concept of Mamulao, to give access to the community about the law. However, in my other life, I am an attorney, have been for 15 years.
Lovely.
I am the founder and MD of Okeletsang, Mookeletsi attorneys. So,
you better say that slowly, babe, because our viewers would like to know exactly that name. Say that name again for us.
Okeletsang, Mookeletsi attorneys.
Oh, nice. By the time you finish a sentence, but
I know it's long, but it is what it is.
Yes.
So I've been doing law for about 15 years now. Various aspects of the law, everything from corporate all the way to litigation, all the way to anything in between, right? Law is interlinked. It does interlink with itself somewhere, somehow. And so I have had, the opportunity to be, what's the word? To have access to certain parts of the law over my time.
Awesome. And talking about day-to-day, when you said that obviously you're taking quite a lot of day-to-day, how people are experiencing certain challenges, which every challenge has a certain legal aspect to it. And today, really, we're going to be talking about family conflicts.
Yep.
Hey, girl. Hey, we see flames, widows, eh? And I've shared on my previous episode before that I personally had experienced some family conflicts,
Right.
and I'm not going to shy away from saying, because it's a life experience that I want to share with my viewers today, and this is not just something that I'm creating to say maybe tell us about I'm talking about something that I'm experiencing, and it's very, very painful to be going through losing your husband, and now you've got to deal with these family conflicts. Having to have a sister-in-law that hates you, not knowing why she hates you. Having to have nephews and nieces that hate you, not knowing what they hate you. And now that the brother is no longer there, now they're starting to show you flames. How really, with these family disputes around finances, around estates, I mean, it can be very emotional, really draining. What are the most common legal conflicts have you probably encountered?
So the typical legal conflicts that occur is, again, the discord between the family members. And from a legal perspective, the law is quite clear as to who needs to get what in the event of a death of a loved one, right? So the law has your back, essentially, as the people who are left behind. And so it's really, really important for families to also understand in the first instance what the law says, rather than so-and-so has passed on, we're going to go into that house and ransack the place and take what's ours.
Yeah.
He left his watches to me, I'm going to take his entire collection of watches.
Yeah,
he said I can have ing.
Yes.
And so we need to move away from that type of practice and behavior because the law actually has certain protections that it affords. And if you don't adhere to the law, you all know the consequences, right?
Yeah.
So there are consequences to doing something that is outside of the law. So that's really, really important thing. As a parting shot to this conversation, the law will take its course. The law has to take its course. Whether it's now when the person is still grieving, when the family is still grieving, or it's later after the grieving process and we're still trying to figure things out, the law will take its course. So it's really important that people understand that in the first instance.
And you hear, when you talk about the law, it's something that when I was responding to them, I said exactly that, to say, you know what, I don't want to fight you in any form, but if you want to fight me, I can go legally. And, they will come up with some sort of things to say, who's got a biological connection here? They'll use all these kind of stories to say, when you just got here? Who are you, after all, in this family, And this is really coming back to the story of, I'll call it a family house for the lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Because in KZN, where we stayed, it was the parents' house. And my husband was the last born. And he's the only male. And by tradition, we know that he's the one that actually inherits the house, right? And the sister's got her own house. She has her own place. Now that the brother now is no longer there, now she comes back to say, this is my house. I'm entitled to this house.
Yeah.
How do we deal with this? Because it has an impact on our children as well.
Correct.
Because right now they are telling us to say we must no longer come there. We're not welcome there. But yet there's a child that now knows that is her home. And when the school closes, you want to go to that home. What do we do?
That is a sad state of affairs.
Yeah.
But I will say what the law says.
Yeah.
In a family home,
Yes.
and as you said with inverted commas, that traditionally the last born male or something like that inherits kene mujalefa, isn't it?
Mujalefa. Yeah.
But in the law, it's slightly different, right? So in a family home that was owned by the parents, and so all the siblings of those parents are equal shareholders in that particular property. So including the deceased husband, he is also a part share in equal part share in that property, right? By operation of law, right? Even if the parents didn't have a will, that is how that house is going to be divided. 100%. So for them to be able to say, look, you are no longer welcome, that might be nice to say, but legally it won't apply. Legally, it will not fly. There's no court you can apply to make that happen, to say these people are not welcome. The children, the grandchildren are indeed welcome. They also then will have a share in that property on the passing of their direct bloodline father in this case.
Yes.
Those children then will have a share, an equal share, to their aunts and uncles, right?
Yeah.
To that property. So basically, from a legal perspective, That's how it is. It doesn't change. it doesn't change just because Rakhadi so-and-so said this, just because Auntie so-and-so said. It doesn't change. The law is very clear on that. And I think it's quite important that we highlight that, right?
That the Rakhadis understand that as well.
The Rakhadis need to watch shows such as A Space to Breathe. Rakhadis need to educate themselves. They need to watch At the Real Mamulawo.
Yes.
We do have a section where we speak about wills and estates, and we do explain this type of eventualities, right? It happens to everybody.
Yes.
Everybody has a family, 100%. And everybody will, in some point in time, go through this type of process.
Yeah, and because right now the main person who gets really the challenge right now is the makoti.
Correct.
You know, because they say that you are the outsider.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
And in a situation whereby probably I would like to throw in the marital regimes into this, and I say, if you now married in commit of property, how would we look at that? As per now, you said the children, the everybody else has an equal share, right? But now from the makoti perspective, if I'm married to this person in commit of property, what is the impact? If I'm married in ANC without accrual, what is the impact? And ANC with accrual.
Okay.
Probably if you can maybe enlighten us on that.
I can indeed.
Yeah.
So the three marital regimes you've mentioned in community of property, ANC standing for anti-nuptial contract,
100%,
right?
yeah.
So in South African law, let's call it out of community of property.
Yeah.
Out of community of property, right?
Yes.
ANC is more like a
political
fancy political term. So let's say out of community of property. There's in community, out of community with accrual, and then out of community without accrual.
Yeah.
So in community of property, it's 50-50, right? So the 50% of the makoti, let's say the makoti is the surviving spouse.
Yeah.
The 50% of the makoti goes to her. But the 50%, the makoti still has a child's share in the 50% of the deceased husband. In other words, in the house example we've just given,
Yes.
the makoti also has a share.
And that's the part.
This is the difficult part.
This is the
isn't
difficult
it?
part.
It is. So the makoti definitely does have a share in that family home if it wasn't deliberately excluded
Yes.
by the grandparents, right? And that's why a will is very important, right? If the grandparents didn't want the makotis or the brothers-in-law not to inherit in this particular family home, then a will would have been the best place to write that I do not want this property number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to be part of any marital regime of my children.
Yes.
Then that was clear. It's only the grandchildren
Children
who
that
will.
are 100%.
But by law, if you're married in community of property, the makoti, the surviving spouse, has a share in that family home via the marriage of the now deceased person.
Eish.
That's in community of property. I know it's a hard pill to swallow, but this is why we educate people. This is why we go into the nitty-gritty of this thing. Because it's nice, you get married, it's a wedding day, it's a wedding day, a weekend. Every Monday, you must do the right thing. You must watch these kind of shows. Space to Breathe, At the Real Mamulawo. Educate yourself.
Yes. And viewers, especially widows, I know there's a lot of conflicts happening out there, but there is information that can help you. Today we have Mamulawo on the show, really helping us understand and unpacking this thing. And maybe now let's elaborate with the other two regimes now.
Correct. So on the two regimes, which is out of community of property with accrual.
Okay.
Out of community of property, basically, just the basic definition is when we start to get married, your stuff is your stuff, my stuff is my stuff.
Yes.
Fine.
Yes.
But with accrual means that however much the estate grew with during the marriage, that is accrual. So whatever has accrued in the marriage, what the two of you worked towards, what you've acquired in the marriage, then that is what we call the accrual, right? So in that accrual, again, it's 50-50, right? So it being 50-50, it's just going to be a lesser accrual than what it was in community of property, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be a lesser accrual, but it will still be an accrual,
Yeah.
right? Well, maybe not lesser. Maybe the two of
maybe it could
you,
be the
you
same,
work
actually,
harder.
yeah.
Maybe it could be the same. It could be
same.
more,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But whatever has accrued in the marital regime, you still then divide it by 50-50, right? So 50% the husband, 50% of the wife. And then depending again on what was agreed upon in that, you can still, in your marital regime of out of community of property with accrual, you can still agree in that contract that our family homes will not be part of this contract.
Yes.
You can still agree to that.
Yes.
Because it's a contract that the both of you are entering into. And it's probably wise to exclude your family homes
from this drama.
from this marriage. It's not drama at that point in time. It's a marriage.
Lovely because
It's still nice. It's still
it's
romantic. You're still,
still on the
So at
honeymoon.
that point in time, while you're still happy, it's
Yes.
important then that you actually
Get things
agree
right,
and get it right.
100%,
right?
yeah.
So that's really, really important, right? But it's important that we understand that whatever your husband or your deceased spouse, whatever he gets there, that calculation will form part of it.
Yeah.
So it might fall in and out of that accrual, right? But it just depends. If part of his estate is part of the property of of his parents, then it unfortunately joins in. But if you were smart enough at the beginning of your marriage to actually exclude this, if you were smart enough to educate yourself, look at YouTube channels such as The Real Mamulawo, such as A Space to Breathe, then you're like, oh, no. I learned something.
This
I
is
need
how
to,
I must do. Yes.
you understand?
Yes.
I need to make sure that this contract is in accordance
100%.
with. Then everybody is covered. Everybody is peaceful
Yes.
at the time of this type of eventuality. Now, the last one, the difficult one, which is marriage out of community of property without accrual.
Yes.
Now, whatever has accrued in the marriage, whatever you accrued on your side, it remains yours. Whatever you've accrued on your side, it remains yours.
Yeah.
In this particular situation, they know the family property is not part and parcel of this marriage.
Yes.
Right?
100%.
Yeah. So that is really, really, really
And then what
important.
happened to the child?
No, the child still has access. The child still has a share. That doesn't change.
And so just to clarify, we are saying on the out of community of property with accrual, you've got a share. If it is inclusive in that accrual, then you've got the share, right? Should it be that when Amakoti probably it was excluded, then it's only by a child if you still have children in the marriage that the child is then could be entitled.
Yes.
Now here's a situation where I'm going to throw a bit of a spin into this, and I say one of the things, and this is, I'm sharing all of this because I'm sharing from the personal experience. My mother-in-law decided to write a letter.
Okay.
Right. So she wrote a letter to say, I don't want anybody else in this house to sell this house, right? When I'm a Koti, make sure that all my children, my grandchildren have a home. Should it be that they need a home?
Okay.
Right?
Right.
And then she took that letter, went to the police station, and she wanted it commissioned. And I said to her, for me, legally, you should have actually done a will, you know. And I said, Gogo, kubelwenzi will, yabo? And it's like, angithi like asixabani.
Okay.
Ngenzela ukuthi they must know.
Okay.
Ukuthi this is what's going to happen.
Okay.
So Umama Zala has given me by writing ukuthi I must take care of the children that are there, of the grandchildren that are going to be there. What happens in this situation? Is this thing letter legal?
Yeah. Carry on.
Right?
Carry on.
Right. Is this letter legal?
Okay.
And in that letter, my husband was not included. She just said, make sure that my house is taken care of and nobody sells it. Do I carry that responsibility?
Like all lawyers would say at this point in time, it depends.
It depends.
Look.
I like that.
Like I said, remember I said from the beginning that the law has your back, right? And that
Yes.
the law is clear.
Yeah.
Having a will is so important, right? When somebody drafts a letter and says, we are not fighting here, these are my wishes. The law recognizes the wishes of a person in a will. The wishes of a person in a letter, while they are valid, they can be challenged. Valid meaning she's an elder.
Yes.
She's writing this letter as the owner or part owner of the property.
Yes.
She's writing this letter as somebody who's trying to secure a future for her grandchildren,
Yes.
etc. Right?
Yeah.
So we can respect that culturally. But the law only recognizes a valid will
100%.
in order for this letter or the wishes of this individual to take place. So while the letter can be respected,
Yes.
culturally should be respected, but the law does not then protect it to the fullest extent. You can bring it forward as evidence of what the wishes were, but it can and will always be challenged if other people feel differently about it. That's the intricacies or the tricky part around writing just a normal letter about your wishes.
100%.
Right.
And I think I really wanted to bring that in because if you think about our parents back at home in the villages, these information sometimes to a certain degree, they don't know about it. But I think as children, it's our responsibility to make sure that if I know that there's a family home as a child, let's make sure that my mom or my dad, whoever is still alive, writes a proper will to make sure that all their wishes are really fulfilled. Because at this point in time, I'm sitting there.
You're stuck.
I'm stuck because
You're stuck.
I'm very stuck. I can tell you that, and it's quite painful because when, as a child of this person who is also deceased, by the way, my mother-in-law, you knew that she appreciated her own makoti. She loved her own makoti. How do you feel when now coming in? And I'm like, it's very tough. My emotions and everything. But this comes to show, and this is now back to the verse, umuntu uyashintsha.
Yeah.
When it's time to inherit, a person changes.
Correct.
And when it has to do with money, bazalwane.
Even worse.
It
gets interesting.
It gets very interesting.
Yeah, it does.
So to avoid those kind of conflicts, how can families prevent these conflicts legally? Before they can actually happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think as people,
Yeah.
we need to try and go back to some of our practices. Practices were really important in the past, where your grandfather would call a family meeting. All adults in the family, grandchildren, children, everybody alike. And then he would then give his 10 commandments of what must happen in his household regarding his estate.
Yeah.
So that by the time he writes it in the will, it's not easy for somebody then to come and challenge the will, to come and challenge the, how the estate is being divided, because Umkhulu had already had this conversation with all of us
everybody.
in one room.
100%.
That's really important. Yeah. I think we need to go back to that because when the will comes out, by the time the will comes to life, people are still grieving, and people grieve in different ways. Oh. You've just said, umuntu yashintsha, people do change, but sometimes they change because of grief. They're still grieving. They're still grieving in their own way, and part of it is not being rational, right?
That's true.
Part of it is not being rational.
Yeah.
And it is what it is because it is grief. But in order to curtail the unreasonableness of that grief, a will would have had been an important document to go with. The family doesn't have to see what's in the will, but at least Mkhulu would have explained broadly what it is he expects for everybody, how people must behave, how people must handle the makotis, how people must handle the so-called outsiders of this particular family home. Very, very important, right? Because all of those people, Mkhulu passed on having had all of those people in his stable, in his kraal, so to speak. So it's very important that those kind of conversations do happen. We can't shy away from those conversations.
We can't. And I think
we shouldn't.
And I think that is a very sad thing when I'm Mamulao, because Rona in our black culture, we shy away from having these conversations.
We do.
Like Rataba. And I'm like, Mara, this is very important.
Yeah.
And rakopana kadi Easter, rakopana kadi December, and all of these kind of things. Why can't we then take that opportunity? Because especially the December time, when everybody says, I'm going home, we are all home. We are here. Why can't we then have a sit down and have the conversation and say...
It's so important. I was at court 2 days ago.
Yeah.
I kid you not, there was such a long line. And I asked her, "Oh, are we going to stand in that line?" And my client said, no, that line. And it's grandmothers. Kibo magogo,
Ay, man,
right? And she
guys.
said, no, that line, get the property.
Come on.
She said to me, look, I've stood in that line before by mistake. And this grandmother was saying to me that they want to take away the house from her.
Ay.
Right? And so can we avoid our grandmothers and our mothers standing in a line at magistrate's court trying to defend a family home
Ish.
when we could have agreed to whatever the situation is so that Magogo can just be peaceful in her house?
And even at that time, how all of that is done, are to say Magogo as well, to secure the house and say, I know who must now stay whenever I'm no longer here.
Exactly.
This is the person that must stay, or I'm giving this person the right to actually stay.
Exactly.
You know, but I will also come in and throw a bit of a spin again. And I'm just taking the advantage that Mamolao is here.
Do so.
They've been a buzz. Mamolao, ya gore, we don't need wills. Like the khona le some diamporoma kuma socials.
Okay.
Gore there shouldn't be wills.
Really?
Yes. Khona le mo diamporomanteng. I don't want to disclose that. I don't want to leave
That's
that.
fine.
But ho rough.
Why?
Reason being the fact of exactly that ya gore ha gona le will and there is no liquidity process being taken care of. Now it's the time to wind up the estate. There is no liquidity, there's no cash, or there's no value to wind up the estate, to pay up the executors and everything else. Now the bank is selling the home and all of those things. And people are failing to understand what is happening, what is the clear process, really, and what is causing the process of the bank coming and saying, sorry, Banabe, I know that mommy wrote that this house must not be sold, but what is the legal part of it that's making the bank or any other provider sell that property, because of liquidity? And I think, let's go there.
I want to go there.
Let's
I
go
cannot
there.
believe
Yes.
that, as attorneys, there's even National Wills Week.
Bona.
National Wills Month. That
Anna.
is how serious the thing about a will is. We've got a National Wills. Guys, you can get free wills drafted by a qualified attorney in September of every year in this country. It is so important. But I want to go to the example you've just given. It's a really good example. And the reason why I want to overturn the notion that you don't need a will in that regard is as follows. There is a property. This property is let's say, owned by the bank because it's still bonded, right?
Yeah.
And mom puts in her will that, look, this property must be divided between my 3 children.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's say father's not here. He must be divided between my 3 children.
100%.
But the property is bonded.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
What mom was supposed to do at the time of writing the will was to get an estate planning planner. Estate planning is very, very important.
That's it, madam.
As and when you draft a will, right? Because when you are bequeathing that property to your children, you know very well that house is still bonded. You know very well that house is still connected to a bank. So technically, it doesn't belong to the children or the people that you are bequeathing it to.
100%.
The smart thing would have, during estate planning, would have been to say, look, let me take out insurance on this property. Let me take out a life insurance on this policy and then on this property. And then on my death, then it can be settled.
Yes.
Then what is in your will then come to life because the house will be paid off as soon as you pass on, right?
100%.
That's a part of estate planning that's really, really, really important because
100%.
I've even have a client right now where, again, that she's facing that kind of situation where the will was drafted, 10 years ago. It wasn't re-looked at during these 10 years. A lot happened during these 10 years.
Sure.
And the property then also is facing this kind of eventuality. In his will, the mother did not say, this is where you're going to find the money to pay off the debts.
In
fact, let's talk about all the debts, not just the house debt.
All the
debts.
All the debts.
Mom didn't tell us
There's
in her
no
will
provision for this.
where the provision comes
from.
Now, the job of what is the word? An executor The job of an executor is to first and foremost pay off the debts,
Yes.
then deal with the assets. So if the deceased person in their will did not say where to get the money to pay off debts,
Yeah.
then unfortunately the assets are the debts are going to eat into the assets. Bottom line,
100%.
the debts are going to eat into the assets,
Yes.
and only what is left of the assets
Yes.
is going to be divided. And if most of the time the biggest assets is the home,
It's the house.
unfortunately the home must go unless you guys have a wealthy somebody in the family who can actually pay off that debt in their personal capacity just to keep the family home. Very important.
Very important.
Like the vital thing about writing a will is estate planning. The vital thing about writing a will is making sure that you have catered for the debts.
And coming to that, and you can imagine right now, we know most of South Africans are in debt. Remote kolotong guys,
Up to here.
Up to, no, not here, it's better. Up to here.
Up to here, we're drowning.
We are drowning in debt. And you are sitting there, you're driving a car, you're driving a house with all the credit cards, with all of the personal loans, student loans, all of it. You're carrying it.
Yes. Don't look like your
We don't
problems.
look like our problems, right? But now, the thing is that it happens, the fact that maybe I've paid off that bond here.
Yes.
Mamola, I've paid off that bond. Now, I then went still to write in the will to say that this house is for my minor children.
Okay.
And it should not be taken away from my minor because it's a paid off house.
Yeah.
But it's in the will. And maybe to twist it again, and I will say, maybe let me say that I've cleared my debt.
Okay.
So I did write a will when I'm Mamulao, but this will is now sitting with a bank, or it's sitting with another institution, or it's sitting with you as an attorney.
Correct.
At this point in time, everything is paid off. I don't owe anything else. The house is paid off. I need you, as my attorney, to implement what I've written here.
Yeah.
Take me through that process and the cost that comes with that process.
Okay. So there is a cost that comes with it, an executor cost, right?
Yes.
So if you watch my channel in Mamulao, we then clearly explain in the Wills and Estates segment, we explain then how the duties of the executor are.
Does, yeah.
Okay. So the executor's job is to basically wind up the estate. An executor doesn't have to be an attorney.
Yes.
An executor can be the spouse or whoever the family nominates to be able to wind up. It's most of the time somebody who has a general and more intimate idea of what the deceased's ins and outs were, their affairs
and they understand,
were. That's why it's most of the time the spouse, because she was close enough to know most of the things that were happening. But again, it can be anybody who is nominated.
Yeah.
That person who's nominated should make sure that they work hand in hand with an attorney. Because at some point during that process, if that person is not legally trained, they're going to have to do something called a liquidation and distribution account, right?
Yes.
Now you're doing accounting.
Yes.
Now you're doing debts, liabilities and assets,
and
minus
like
this and minus. You know, so you need to now balance that. So you need a liquidation and distribution account that you need to do. And for all intents and purposes, you need an attorney to help you do those kind of things, right? So you can start off as being self-executor.
Yeah.
But then, it's probably just better just to get an attorney, get it all done, give him all the stuff he needs, and then get it done. The executor, by the way, also has an amount that must be paid to him or her.
For the services.
For the services that they are doing. And again, I didn't say just because you're a family member, now can we not pay you?
Yeah.
I said an executor by law needs to be paid X percentage of the value of the estate.
The gross value.
The gross value.
We need to get that
of
one
the
right.
estate.
Because I can
Yes.
it comes for no, this one it is
But
about
it is the
about
value
gross,
of the estate where there is a percentage of the estate that must be paid to the executor who is winding up this estate and making sure it's done properly, right? Then obviously the attorney has his own fee as well. If the attorney is the executor, he then gets those fees. If the attorney is not the executor, and so forth, right?
Yeah.
So the last time I checked, I think it was 3.4%.
3.5.
3.5%.
Then some of them are vet vendors, they can add the 50%.
That as well, yes. So so that's more or less the percentage,
Yes.
but it's of the value of the estate.
100%.
Right?
100%.
Also important that I want to raise is, can we try not to hide assets? Because sometimes assets are hidden.
Somewhere.
And you just didn't know that so and so had a house guy. Da, da, da.
Yeah.
So that's really important. And the reason why that it's important that we don't hide anything during this process is because it can still be reopened should we find later on that there are things that were hidden. Should we find later on that the beneficiaries have been shortchanged.
Yeah.
So bring out any children that were outside of their marriage. Don't run away from that. You know, sometimes bomamncane, they pretend like they wish the kids away. It's not going to help.
You can't, especially the fact that you know that they are there.
No, but sometimes you don't know. But
sometimes you don't know.
On the
you're
day
right.
of the funeral, there they
come.
are. So you had an idea there was people.
Yeah.
But then they come and now it's real.
Yes.
It's very important. The quicker you actually make sure that you include these people into, and I mean, these people is horrible. The quicker that you include the bloodline of the deceased into this estate.
Yes.
The quicker and the more peaceful the process becomes, the quicker it ends and the more peaceful the process becomes. Because should you elect to exclude them, and they've come forward, they've given you the DNAs
and
they've given you everything,
you're gonna have to
and you
redo
still you're going to have to redo it. You really, whatever you've shared with your kids, they're going to have to reshare that.
Yes.
And that won't be nice.
And now this comes back to that house that was paid off, right? We have paid it off, and now it's time to wind it up. We're gonna do, and probably there's that what is it? The
Liquidation and distribution account.
Liquidation and distribution accounts. We've put everything in there, and then we realize that actually there's no money to actually wind up because now the executor is waiting for their 3.5% of the service, and it's not there. What do we do? What do we do?
You see, now you're asking me to be controversial.
And
by that I mean that truly speaking, then the estate owes the executor money. The executor can put in a claim. I don't want to say sue.
Yes.
But the executor can put in a claim against this very estate, right? And so that's the reality of it. That's the reality of what estate planning should be. Try and make sure you're on a plus and not a minus.
Yes.
Try and make sure that you're on more than a plus and rather than on a little bit of a minus. It's really, really important. I mean, look, you can have good credit and you can have bad credit.
100%.
Right?
100%.
Where you have good credit, it's important to plan for it in your estate. To 100%. Say, this is credit that I have. I know it's good credit, but this is how we can actually fix it. But bad credit is difficult to fix it because people don't know then where to start to actually cater for that credit.
100%.
But where you have good credit, you've catered for it.
100%.
Ideally, you've catered for it.
Hopefully.
Ideally, you've catered for it.
Would love to see that happening.
Yes.
And I think that takes me back to my field. Being a certified financial planner, we're seeing things. And the sad part is that, Mamulao, our Black nation doesn't want to do financial planning. Let's just be honest about it. We are up for the Horakadi policy. We are up of we like buying, ne? Which is I won't take away from the history of the industry itself because it's to a certain degree it did contribute to people taking to the fact that it is all about buying a policy. But there is this aspect called the financial planning. Financial planning is actually where you're sitting and you do all this estate planning, those investment planning, to check, are you really in the good position or something happens to you today? Will this not create drama for you and your family?
And it can.
Something
as simple as a business. Your business
girl
has such a huge impact into your personal life.
But it's only a small business.
It's not.
But it's only a small business.
It's not.
And you know the impact that comes with that in your whole estate.
In your personal life.
Whole I think probably we'll have another session about business.
we do.
But not today.
No, but
today
we
I want to talk about as well about this family conflict thing, and I want to go back to the issue of parents.
Yeah.
To say what are those the common mistakes that parents make? Well, that they experience, right, or that they do that they shouldn't be doing to make sure that the future of their children are taken care of?
I like that question because parents definitely need to stand up for their children while they're still alive. I can't emphasize more than I already have the importance of a will. Having a will that has a backing of proper estate planning is a brilliant win for you as a parent towards securing the future of your children. Number 2, you can also initiate what is called a trust. A trust is it's a vehicle that can live during your time as a parent, and it can also live after your time as a parent, right? 100%. Just depends on how you draft it, how you structure it, and what that vehicle is supposed to do, right? So that's also a vehicle that can be taken care of, right? When you are a business person, you need to make sure that at least you try and separate the differences between the business and all of its shenanigans and the household and all of its shenanigans. 100%. You can't have the two.
Yeah.
You can't be, using your business things to pay school fees, and then you're paying your the monies and you're doing this with your business. Try not to do that, because then it's going to be confusing when you are dead. You can't speak for yourself. They pull out the statements and there's everything there.
Happening there. Yeah.
So you need to try and separate those two things. Number 3 is also, again, I can't re-emphasize the importance of sitting down with your people. Whether it's your siblings,
we used to have family meetings.
Have a family meeting. Have a family meeting. Guys, on my passing, please, let's go latla bana ba ka. Guys, on my passing, they are fine financially, but please help them to run it. Do not kick them out into the cold. Do you understand? So that family meeting is also quite important. Even a family meeting with your kids, so that they also then understand the unity amongst themselves that must be there on your passing. They can't, everybody's going their separate ways. They must understand and know that you expect unity from them when on your passing. They must understand and know that on this earth they are here to look after each other, that etc., right? So have a family meeting. And I think the last one that I can say is also for the parents to be able to manage their debt accordingly. So important. Manage your debt properly so that you don't leave your kids with debt. Because you might say the house is theirs, but if the house is bonded, it's not theirs technically. So 100%. You need to manage your debt very, very well in the space of writing things down. Try also not to write things down on paper and then hoping that the example you've just given us. Try and make sure it's actually part and parcel of the will that you have drafted. It's properly signed by witnesses, dates, etc. It must be properly signed. And again, let me talk about drafting of a will. Is that you can draft your own will if you want to. But it can be tricky. Why? Because a will is only valid if specific things are in there. Sure. It must be signed by witnesses. It must be dated by witnesses. It must be initialed and signed by yourself on each and every single page. At the bottom of that page. There's specific reasons why it's at the bottom of that page. There's specific reasons why it must be initialed every page. There's specific reasons why it must be signed by you and at least 2 other people. Those things are important in law to make it valid. If only one witness signs and there's space for another witness and there's no other witness, it can be challenged. 100%. It doesn't become a valid will. So that's why it's important then just to get an attorney to at least look through it. You can draft it yourself. I'm not saying people shouldn't draft things themselves. By all means, draft it yourself so that at least you've seen more or less what it looks like. But at least get it validated and legalized by a legal professional. Then at least you've done as far as you... Look, there is no perfect winding up of an estate. Let me be clear.
You just went right there. You just went right there. You want to go there?
I want to go there.
Okay, I want to give you time to go there.
There's no perfect estate planning and a will drafting. There is no, it's not perfect. It can never be perfect. Why? You can get the best of the best attorneys to draft this thing for you, get the estate planners in the room, you get your accountants, you can get it right, right? Only to find that on your passing, one of your children is married to an attorney, And then they want to come and upset the whole apple cart because the wife is not happy. One of the children who happens to be married to another is not happy with what she got. So and so got 2 houses.
Why?
She gets a depreciating assets.
Why?
You understand? The last born, because she's only 17, she gets 2 properties. But the other ones who are above a certain age, they only get less. So those are the kind of things that can cause a lot of friction in families, right? And at the time somebody was drafting it, they just thought because she's younger, she hasn't gotten the benefit of my support as a parent, I'm going to give her more rather than this. So there are rationales around things like that, right? But you can have drafted the most amazing thing. You've catered for your debt, you've catered for the assets, listen, the grandchildren, even the children that are not born, you can bequeath, by the way, some of your
without
assets
even their names in it,
to children that you don't know yet,
yeah.
to grandchildren that are not born yet.
Yeah.
You can do all of those beautiful things, right? Only to find on your passing somebody comes and just upsets the whole apple cart.
Yeah.
And then that perfection that you attempted, you then it shows that here.
Matata, because like you said, life is not perfect after all.
Life is not perfect. Or somebody just rocks up out of nowhere. Your mother owed me money. Here's all my evidence. She's been owing me for the last couple of years. Here's all the summons that I've been sending to her.
Eish.
God, when you see it's in the millions,
Yo.
that will have a detrimental impact on how
that
that
perfect
estate,
plan that you
on
had.
that perfect plan that you had.
And that's
right?
and that's why we say when clients comes to us, be open.
Very open.
Tell us the truth, viewers. Tell us the truth, because that's where the challenge comes in. And when clients come to you, they, as you said, they hide certain things and they don't tell you, and then you make a plan based on this information that has been given to you.
Yep.
And the next thing, when you're no longer there, the family comes to you and say, "But why did you do 1, 2, 3?" But I'm like, this is the information that the person gave me.
Correct.
So sometimes it becomes very difficult from my side, from a financial planner perspective, to actually give you a proper plan, because you didn't give me all the information. And sometimes even when we ask for the information, I have a client last year, he said, let's have a conversation first and I'll see how much information I give you. And I said, then in that case, I can't do a financial plan for you.
Correct.
Because now what am I gonna base it on? You're giving me insufficient information for me to give you a proper plan. So how am I gonna advise you? And our advice gets to be limited now, because I'm gonna give you a limited advice on the basis that you've given me limited information. But now you're forgetting that by the time you are gone, the people that are gonna be left behind, they're gonna be coming and questioning me.
Correct.
To say, Kanti, because we thought you are the certified financial planner, you should know 1, 2, 3. I'm like, but I did not know about that letter that he's owing so much.
Correct.
I did not know about the house that is hidden somewhere else. So I really, really comes to say, Auhle, please be open. And by the way, confidentiality is key. I get
Yeah, of course.
So in everything that we do, it's very confidential.
Correct.
Especially when it comes to our male figures, but the other side, and it's important, because if the other side unalungwana, we need to make sure that
we cater for that
cater
person.
for those things.
Yeah.
So Mamulao,
Yes.
wow. I know we could talk for days.
We could
talk for days. But really, I just want to really, really thank you for coming through. And I just want you to share maybe one story. One positive story. I could have been talking to Raf.
Yes. Yes.
Maybe just share one positive story that you have assisted.
Yeah.
And maybe share some 2-3 key takeaways from that experience.
So how I encountered this space of family law is I way back when assisted my aunt to wrap up the estate of her deceased husband. And that was an eye-opener for me, because it was personal at the time, right? She was going through things, etc., etc., etc. So I had to play a dual role of being an attorney and also being the person helping her to wind up the estate. And so I think what's important about that is that even as a professional, even as an attorney or an estate planner, it is our job to also be mindful of this journey that the individual is going through, right? Because there are many pitfalls, by the way, that happen there are many things that you want to ask a person, but they are not here for you to ask them. Where is this? Where can I find this? Oh, here's a funny story. I saw recently, I think it's on social media, that the women's spouses are saying, in their wills, can the husbands please also share their phone pin? Because
I've got an answer for that. I've got an answer for that.
I'm listening.
I've got an answer for that.
I'm listening.
Yeah, phone pins, eh?
Phone pins. But your life is on the phone.
It's
your
100%,
emails, your
100%.
banking apps, everything is on the phone.
So here's what I wanted, but I wanted to share it as my closing. No, you finish your part.
Okay,
then
let
I
me
will
finish
do-
my part.
Yeah.
So the goodness of it is, even though it took time, we went through the entire process, right? Together. Step by step, this is what it entails. And fortunately, we were able to find everything during a reasonable amount of time around what is sitting where, etc., etc. And the good part of the story is it's important from a healing perspective. When somebody comes out of that process, knowing they've done everything they possibly could do to secure their own children's future, knowing that they've done everything they possibly could do so that this person can genuinely rest in peace. And that's ultimately what we're looking for, a space to breathe. And you will breathe once all of that is wrapped up, it's behind you, and you're moving forward. You will have a place to breathe.
Oh, what a closing. What a closing. And I just want to come back to that point of phone pins.
Yes.
So here's what I came up with. As the viewers know, I am the founder of Esteemed Financial Solutions. So what we do there, actually, obviously, we do comprehensive financial planning and so forth. What we have done with my team, we have built something called a book life.
Okay.
Or they call it life book life. Hey, you know, these young people, they've got names for these things.
Yeah.
But this is a document whereby we say to you, as much as you've got a will and it's placed wherever it is, this book life, you're going to put in your details about your bank, the banks that you bank with, you list them. You're going to put in the pins of your laptop.
Okay.
Your pin of your phone,
Okay.
the pin, any passwords, really.
Really? Okay.
So that you can take that document. Honestly speaking, I believe that you can take that document and give it to, it's either you give it to somebody that you trust, or you can even attach it to the will.
Okay.
Really.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And it can go with that will to say, these are the information, because honestly speaking, one of the things that I personally I got stuck with my husband's phone.
Indeed.
I did.
Yes.
And I'm like, baby, when did you change this pin?
Because I knew your pin.
Because I knew your pin. I'm like, angazi ngokuvusa manje, baby. Kodwa ngixakekile.
Silence.
Silence.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And guess what? I had to get the phone resetted because there was nothing I was going to do. And luckily, he didn't have a lot, so it was easy for me to clean up.
Yeah.
But you can imagine somebody who's got a lot, who's got business and all of these kind of things that you need to wrap up.
Yeah.
And you're stuck.
Yeah.
So we are using that book. So for you viewers out there, remember to subscribe, remember to like, remember to comment, and definitely maybe on the comment section, I'm going to give these people for free. I'm going to give these people the free book life that Esteemed has.
Wow.
So please maybe put in your email address on the comment section so we can email you that copy. The more people have this, the better.
Correct.
And this is now us trying to clean up. We're not saying that we have a perfect formula, by the way, but we're just putting it out there to say, let's help each other to make our lives easy. Let's do our financial planning. Let's do the wills, estate planning, and so forth. And the basics of knowing the laptop pins, the phone pins, all of those things are part and parcel of this plan, by the way. A part and parcel of the plan.
Yeah.
So if we don't know how to open this laptop, because this laptop is everything, right?
Yep.
Because right now the business is here, everything is in here. If something happens to me today, boom, all is gone.
Yep.
So that book life is actually there to help. So you can actually take that book life and share it with your attorney, or share it with whoever that's taking care of your will.
Correct.
And attach it there.
Yes.
So for all of you viewers, you're going to get it for free. So like, comment, share, subscribe, comment with your email address, Or comment with any questions, by the way. We are willing to tackle any questions. Maybe it might trigger Mamula to come more and more. But we are going to have a session, Mamula, I'm saying it right now.
Yeah.
We are going to have a session on business.
Oh, lovely.
We're going to talk about business.
Lovely.
The legality around it. The impact that it has. So viewers, remember we have Mamulawo. So Mamulawo, what are your handles?
So my handles are, you can catch us on @TheRealMamulawo. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, and we're on YouTube. And if you need proper legal advice, please contact us at Okeletsang Mookeletsi Attorneys through www.om-attorneys.com.
Oh, lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Noni.
It was awesome. We had great fun.
I'm sure we will have more of these conversations.
Absolutely. Thank you, darling.
Thank you for having me.
So thank you so much, viewers, for really giving yourself the time to really join us on the show. By the way, it is a space to breathe.